Most people trust their GPS without thinking twice, but sometimes it leads you somewhere you should never go. Story 1. The satellite signal flickered, the blue line on my dashboard screen shuddering as it recalculated. Recalculating, the soothing, synthetic voice hummed. It had been doing that for 20 miles, dragging me deeper into the skeletal remains of the Appalachian foothills. I was trying to bypass the interstate construction, relying on a rerouting app that promised to shave 40 minutes off my commute. Now the pavement had surrendered to packed dirt and jagged slate. The headlights cut through the oppressive fog, illuminating trees that looked less like timber and more like gnarled, reaching fingers. "In 200 feet, turn right," the voice commanded. There was no road. There was only a wall of dense, rotting pine. "GPS, return to main route," I muttered, my pulse quickening. I tapped the screen, but the interface was frozen. The map was no longer showing geography. It was a rhythmic, pulsing web of crimson lines that seemed to throb in time with my own heartbeat. I slammed the brakes as the car lurched into a ditch. The engine sputtered and died, plunging me into a silence so heavy it felt pressurized. Click. The GPS screen flared, blindingly white, before displaying a single line of text. "Get out." My breath hitched. I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. I tried the other side. Locked. The dashboard light turned blood red, and the synthetic voice ceased its calm cadence. It was replaced by a distorted, layered sound. My own voice, recorded from a conversation I'd had hours earlier, spliced and chopped into a frantic, garbled scream. Outside, the fog began to shift. Shadows, taller and thinner than any tree, moved with a fluid, unnatural grace toward the car. They weren't walking, they were drifting, closing the distance in seconds. The screen began to cycle rapidly, showing live camera feeds from inside my car. I watched myself on the screen, paralyzed and trembling, framed by the dark interior. Then the feed switched to something else, a perspective from behind me, through the rear window. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Through the reflection in the rearview mirror, I saw the handle of the back door slowly turning. "Recalculating," the voice whispered, no longer synthetic, but a wet, raspy mimicry of my own tone. "Destination reached." The engine roared to life on its own, the RPMs redlining as the car slammed into gear. I wasn't driving anymore. The steering wheel jerked violently beneath my hands, locking me into a trajectory toward the abyss. As the car surged forward into the black maw of the forest wood, the GPS screen flashed one final, cold directive: no escape. Story 2. The GPS had been recalculating for the last 20 minutes, its synthetic voice growing increasingly strained, as if struggling to articulate the geography of this place. "Make a sharp left," it commanded. I squinted through the windshield. There was no road, only a jagged fissure in the dense, suffocating canopy of the blackwood pines. My headlights cut through a thick, unnatural fog that seemed to swallow the light rather than reflect it. My sedan groaned as the tires hit uneven, soft earth, the chassis scraping against half-buried stones that sounded like snapping bone. "You have arrived at your destination," the device chimed. The screen went black, then flickered with a static distortion that looked eerily like a human face caught in a scream. I killed the engine. Silence rushed in, heavy and absolute. I was miles from the interstate, deep in a nameless valley marked on no map I had ever seen. I reached for my phone to check the signal, but the screen was dead. The temperature plummeted, turning my breath into ragged plumes of gray vapor. I climbed out, my boots sinking into the dark, wet loam. The air smelled of wet fur and iron, the copper tang of blood. Far off in the woods, something heavy moved, the rhythmic thump drag of a gait that was far too deliberate to be animal. I scrambled back into the car, fumbling for the keys, but the ignition didn't respond. The dashboard lights pulsed in time with my racing heart. Suddenly, the GPS screen flared to life again. It wasn't showing a map. It was a live feed of the woods directly behind my car. I turned, my neck muscles locking in terror. Through the rear window, I saw nothing but shifting shadows. I looked back at the screen. The camera, positioned, impossibly, from a high vantage point behind the trunk, showed a figure. It was tall, impossibly thin, standing perfectly still, watching me through the glass. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out the ambient forest sounds. I kicked the door, but it wouldn't budge. The locks were jammed. The GPS voice spoke again, but the tone had shifted. It was no longer mechanical. It was my own voice, distorted and hollow. "Recalculating," it whispered. The figure on the screen took a step forward, its elongated fingers reaching for my trunk. I looked at the dashboard one last time. The map had returned, but the blue arrow representing my car was now blinking red, and the route line didn't show a path forward. It showed a loop, a narrowing spiral ending in a single black point. The back window shattered, not from a blow, but from the sudden, freezing pressure of something forcing its way inside. As the cold hand clamped onto my shoulder, the GPS offered one final, clinical update. "Your destination is reached.